Hello folks, this is David Lentz, here to talk about my novel again. This is video number 2, part 2. I didn't want to give away the ending or give too many details about the book in the first video. That's basically the video to pique your interest to sell the book, so to speak. This book, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what Rao's law is, you don't want to get you don't want to know the ending of the book or whatever, you probably ought to stop listening right now. In any event, like I said, this is video 2, and is designed to tell you why I wrote the book. Number one, wealth inequality, the erosion of the middle class, unfair wages, low wages, high executive bonuses, things like this are very much in the news right now. I wanted to write about that and to point out what I perceive to be a structural flaw in free market capitalism. Now, this is not a book extolling virtues of communism or what have you, but to point out an aspect, a fundamental aspect of capitalism and free market economies that create some problems that will always lead to this widening wealth gap if they go totally unchecked. The second thing is to point out a first step solution to solving this problem, and Rao does that through Rao's law in the book. Now, if you think about it, fixing wealth inequality and wage inequality goes a lot of ways towards solving other problems, such as Social Security. It's in financial difficulty. How long is it going to be around? Healthcare, paying for healthcare, or even paying for the premiums, solving that problem. Also, crime. People steal because they have a hard time making ends meet. One has to wonder if people and societies would be quite as belligerent and warlike, and there would be as much strife if everybody was a little bit better off. One of the things that made this country great was it had a very healthy middle class, and we're sort of losing that. In any event, two things. One of the structural flaws of capitalism has to do with differences between rich folks and poor folks in terms of risk aversion, risk tolerance. That's one thing. The second thing is Rao's solution, which basically it's a very simple, straightforward concept. Maybe somebody's proposed it before, probably so, because it's relatively simple, but I haven't heard any discussion of this type of solution to the problem. Rao basically says, and he tries to implement this in his country in the book, and there's an assassination attempt in any event. His way of looking at it was, back in the early 60s, the United States, well, he's dealing with Guyana, but I'm just trying to give you insight as to why this rule is this way. The American industry was doing very well, and back then the wage differential between corporate presidents and CEOs and your lowest paid worker was like 100 to 1 or something like that. So that's what Rao uses in his book. Now, there's no magic to 100 to 1, but it's better than the 400 to 1, which is basically the current ratio. Just about. This is 2016. Anyway, he says, okay, executives, you can pay yourself that much money. You can pay whatever bonus you want, as long as if you pay more than 100 times what your lowest paid workers getting paid, then the workers, not the stockholders, the workers, not the board of directors, the workers have to approve the payment to the CEO of the executive of exorbitant compensation. That's not to say they won't. They can approve 1,000,000 times what the lowest paid worker is making, but they have to approve it if they're getting paid more than 100 times what the lowest paid worker is getting paid. That's Rao's solution towards, it's a step really, it's not a total solution, towards solving wealth inequality and getting a bigger middle class, so to speak. one of the beauties of that, of course, uh, is that you don't have to constantly mess around with minimum wage laws, uh, and uh, and before executives can give themselves a raise, they can pay themselves if they've got to make sure that they give a certain amount to the workers. Otherwise, they can't do it without worker approval. Now they can pay, in Rao's situation, they can pay up to 99 times the amount that a low-paid worker is getting without getting worker approval. Anyway, that's Rao's solution. But to go back to the first point, which is even really the bigger reason why I wrote the book, was free market capital. In free market capitalism, there's always going to be an inevitable tendency for the rich to get richer at the expense of the poor. And the biggest reason for that is differences in risk tolerance between uh, rich folks and poor folks. In Rouse and Paul Earle, the TV producer that invented the game Flip for Cash, in the novel, basically gives both the poor indigent contestants and the rich guest stars the same knowledge what the expected value of the coin flip is. Both sides have the same ability to flip a head or a tail. There, and still, the rich guest stars come out on top and seem to make more money than the contestants do. You have to read the book. I don't want to go into all that right here, but the thing of it is a lot of people will argue, and it's true, that one of the reasons why the rich get richer is better education, better connections, the tax code, uh, a whole variety of reasons. Well, you can. What I'm saying is you can fix all those things, and it's probably a good idea to fix a lot of those things. But until you solve the risk tolerance problem and give people a little bit more money to begin with, hence pay them more, um, you, you're going to have a situation where the rich are going to get richer. And with the abilities of all the traffic cameras that are around, with the NSA's ability to snoop on us on the internet, and ability of big brother government, it would take nothing for a few very rich people or somebody to establish a dictatorship, an oligarchy, a plutocracy, or whatever, and take over the place. And they could watch us. It would be terrible. We would lose our freedoms under those circumstances. We'd have eventually it would become a dictatorship of the rich. Anyway, that's pretty much why I wrote the book. Oh, and before I forget, there's also, of course, the human element to this. The relationship that Paul has with his wife, and he has this fling with Maria. But the book, sort of has a happy ending, I guess. It's semi-happy. It's sort of a little, maybe, I don't know if bittersweet's the right word, but it holds promise in terms of family relationships and doing the right thing. So in any event, the one other thing about the book is, before I forget to mention this also, Rao, the book basically suggests that these laws become part of fair trade between countries, that all trade agreements that the United States enters into, we should require the counter signatories, and if you want most favored nation status, that everybody sign a trade agreement that basically makes something like Rao's law, Rao's solution, a part of their domestic law. That would prevent companies from moving overseas. Anyway, here's the book. I'm David Dixon Lentz. I taught international business and finance, and you can see more about me on David Lentz Law, DAVIDLENTZ law.com. And thanks for coming by, and I hope you enjoy the book. Thanks a lot.